Well, good morning. It's the 2nd of July, 2020. I'm Mayor John Engen. With me is Missoula County Commissioner Josh Slotnick, and we wanted to take a minute today to talk to you about masks. Uh, we had been doing these videos on a daily basis when the pandemic first arrived in Missoula. Um, got a lot of pieces in place and we've been plugging along, but clearly there has been a surge in the illness. And we believe that there are some reminders we ought to offer. And we also wanted to let the community know our advocacy for a mask mandate, mask or cloth face coverings to help help prevent the spread of COVID-19, the novel coronavirus. Commissioner Slotnick and his colleagues and I sent a letter to the Missoula City County Health Officer Ellen Leahy this week, advocating for an order from her office mandating masks in restaurants and businesses and places where the public gather. We think that that is prudent. We think that it could certainly help temper the spread of the illness and get us through this thing more safely and a little faster. I suspect I'm missing some things there, Commissioner, but
I'm happy to jump in on this. So our letter was a demonstration of support to Ellen. Admittedly, doing something like this is going to change the way people live on a day-to-day basis when they go out into the world, into public indoor spaces. It's a big thing to make this demand of people. And so we really wanted to let Ellen and the health department know that they have our support in making this choice and taking this action. I wanted to respond to some asks that I've had over email recently. One of them was around, well, isn't this going to restrict people's personal freedom, and shouldn't a person be able to do what they want with their own body when they want? And I'm really sympathetic to that, but want to point out that the limits to personal freedom are when your actions cross over to a realm where they could harm another. So if you are in your house or within your person and you want to do something that has no effect on anybody else, that seems to make great sense. The act of wearing a mask is not to protect yourself, but to protect others. So the act of wearing a mask or not wearing a mask has an effect on other people's health. And that's where this stops being a question of personal freedom and starts being a question of public health. And which is why the public health officer has the authority, I believe, and the health board. It's a little hazy which one's going to take action. They have the authority to do this.
Yep. I mean, I can't take my dog into a restaurant. I don't think that that's an inhibition on my freedom. It's just the fact that I can't take my dog in a restaurant, and therefore I don't, or I choose not to go to a restaurant. That choice remains for everyone under this mandate. And frankly, this became political for all sorts of reasons, but it's really about trying to look out for one another. And this is a scientifically demonstrated, data supported prevention measure. And that's why we think it's important. I did want to let you all know too that I just got off the phone with University of Montana President Seth Bodner, who despite some media reports, is very supportive of mask wearing, very interested in a policy at that gets masks to a mandatory space, and has been working on that. But in the meantime, would welcome this order as a tool to help him. The enforcement thing is very hard at the University of Montana, and the order helps with that. And the order helps with enforcement in general. But my hope is that folks don't see this as anything but a step in ensuring that more people don't get sick and die in our community from this rotten disease that's tipped us over.
Yeah, I wanted to speak a little bit to that enforcement piece, just because I've received so much email and comments about it. One of the things I believe that allows us to have such a stable society in Missoula and in the United States is that we are a bunch of rule followers. We abide by the rule of law. People stop at a four-way stop, even if a law enforcement officer isn't there. If we make this a rule, we're going to see a great leap forward in compliance, even if enforcement isn't 100%. I've heard estimates 30, 40, 50% increase in compliance. Now imagine if you fall into one of those 30, 40, 50%, and because of this, you don't get sick, or your family members don't get sick. This is a really big deal. I'm not so worried that we're not going to have blanket enforcement. If this becomes a law, most everyone will abide by it, because we are a people who abide by the rule of law. It is what makes us so stable. So I'm not as concerned about blanket enforcement as others are.
Well, we're all in this together, as we've heard over and over, and this is just another way to be in this together. And so we look forward to the health officer's work and our continued support for that work in order to make sure that our community stays safe. The surge in cases has been alarming, and it has consequences. And if we're not working on every front to do our best to stem the flow of this disease, we're being irresponsible.
Well said. I could just keep going on and on like I can on most subjects, but I think that would be painful to people.
I think it would as well. So the masks are available everywhere. They're ubiquitous in our society today. And if you don't have one, you sure ought to. And we'll work on some resources in that regard as well. But in the meantime, do what the commissioner and I do, and that is put on your mask, even though you're going to be like me and forget it and then have to go back to the car. What I've found is if I stick it in my pocket, that helps. So take care of one another. This is a tough deal, and the more we support each other and take care of one another, the better off we'll be.
Absolutely. This is about us supporting each other. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Thanks, everyone, and we'll continue to be in touch.
Have a good day.